welcome to the Phoenix Rise podcast. I'm so happy to have you here. If you're new, welcome to the tribe. If you are a regular, welcome back. So today we are continuing on our momentum train of having amazing guest speakers on the podcast. And today is no different to that. We have got the beautiful Krystal, who is part of the Women Thrive Summit for the international stage that we're all speaking on next year. And we're just going to see where this message takes us. The podcast is all about spirituality, mindset, and business. So it could go anywhere. Before we dive in, I'm just going to get Krystal to introduce yourself. Please do say hi to everyone, Krystal, and tell us a little bit about yourself.
Of course. Hi, everyone. My name is Krystal Jugarap. I am the founder of BOOKofBIJOUX, as well as our community platform, Empowered by Women. I've been kind of on my own entrepreneurship journey. Well, I'd like to say since high school, but my business launched in 2021 and we've been really hitting the ground running since then. But Claire, I am so excited to be here. Thank you so much for having me. I've always loved your energy, so I'm really excited for this conversation.
Oh, thank you so much, Krystal. And do you know what? I was just thinking then, right, where is this conversation going to go? And straight away, so we just literally had like a 2-minute chat before we came on, because it's 5 o'clock in the morning, guys, where Krystal is. This is dedication, right? This is what separates the wheat from the chaff. This is like what makes success. And we were talking about, okay, what should we talk about? And I said to Krystal, you know, on my podcast, if you're a regular, you will know I never really plan in advance. I'm not strategic with this. I'm very much in the feminine energy of allowing the messages to be downloaded, to flow through me, and trust that that's what needs to come out at the moment. And Krystal was like, yes, 100%. I love that. So I think let's start here, because this is a great conversation. And what we first discussed is, you know, I said, if I guest on someone else's podcast and they start kind of interviewing me, like, you know, interview style, they could literally be like, what's your name? And I'm like, I don't know. It's like the pressure, like my mind goes blank and I lose my energy. I lose my passion. I lose any sort of knowledge that's in my brain. And it's like, I just become a blubbering mess. But in business, so many of us get caught up in believing that we have to have all this strategy, all this structure, all this masculine energy container, right? And I'm not saying we don't need that. We do need that, but it doesn't have to rule every aspect of your business. So Krystal, I would just love your perspective on this and kind of where you sit on that fence.
I honestly could not agree more. Okay, so for everyone listening, Claire was also on our podcast, the Empowered by Women podcast. And my style is completely the same way. Well, we do have a structure when it comes to posting them. So we're different in that regard. But when it comes to having the conversation, I 100% agree that it is so much better to just have a free-flowing conversation, and you hit it right on the nail on the head with that energy piece. Because when you are able to just talk genuinely from your heart and what you're feeling in that moment, that's where you really get that energy, that passion, and your audience feels that. Yeah. Versus when it's so structured and it's just like question, and then it jumps to this other question, and it's like, okay, all of a sudden it's almost taking that human aspect out of it, and you're just regurgitating some, you know, lines that you saved in your head. But people come to listen to other people and to hear real inspiring stories. So I couldn't agree more.
I love that so much. And it just reminded me, so for those of you who are listening who have been on my journey and been in my world for a while, you'll know this, but for those of you who are new, so I've recently, last night, I graduated from doing a training program with Lisa Nichols for speaking, right? So it was an 8-week intensive course, if you like, if you want to call it that. And it was really interesting. So for the graduation, we had to, it's called Stand Up and Deliver. And we had to stand up for 3 minutes in front of the whole Lisa Nichols team and deliver what we called a valley. And what we learned through this process is there are tools, right? There are strategies and structures that you use to build your story. But then it's like you learn all of that, then you forget it all, and then you free flow. So it's knowing that you have the structure and the foundations. So, you have the knowledge, you know what you're talking about, you know what you stand for, you know your core values and all this kind of stuff. But then allowing yourself to be in the moment and to be human. And we were having this discussion around, that's the difference between what makes a great speaker and a mediocre speaker in this example, but in any aspect of entrepreneurial life, is the humanology. That's not a word. Like the human side. Exactly this, right? I'm saying a word I just made up because I'm human and I do that. And I think when you can be so rigid, you lose that connection. You lose that sense of people feeling like, okay, she's just one of us, she's just a human like me.
Exactly. And I love that you brought up that all of these things that we're talking about can absolutely be applied to more than just speaking.
100%.
And that's how I feel like my business has been kind of going over the years. And it's about building that momentum based on your energy and based on how you're feeling. A lot of things that we've done and that we've launched has been such a natural progression, which is something that I love so much about my business, because everything that I'm doing because it feels good. It feels like, yeah, this is the right path to take at this time. This is the kind of energy that I'm receiving back and it's being reciprocated to me. And I know to continue following this path. And that's the same way with the conversation, right? And so you can become stagnant if, all of a sudden, of course, there are going to be people that have like this 5-year business plan set out, like this year I'm going to launch this year I'm going to do that. But if you're so stuck on getting to that point, your heart is not in it. It's just checking off the box, but how are you really feeling and where is that momentum? And it makes it so much easier to get burnt out, get overwhelmed, and feel that anxiety of doing what you need to do versus just doing what feels good to you and you want to do. And at the end of the day, our goal should be to create lives that feel really aligned to who we are and that make us really happy.
Yeah, I love that so much. There's so much that we can dive into in this. And I think exactly what you said there about, if you have this 5-year plan, right? I've never had a business plan in my life. I've run 3 businesses, 2 multiple 6 figures. I'm birthing my 4th, never had one in my life. It's just not, and I'm not saying that they're wrong. If that's for you, you do you, fab, crack on. But for me and for my students and my audience, that is typically the hustle culture. And it's this feeling of, I have to do it in this order, chronologically, there's no movement. If I don't hit this, it's a failure. I need to relook at it, relaunch it, do it again. And you're losing your purpose. Like you said, Krystal, you're losing that. Why am I doing this in the first place? I'm not doing it to hit a certain target. I'm doing it to create a life of, well, for me, fun, freedom, and fulfillment. That's my 3 core values, right? That's if anything I'm doing doesn't give me that, then why the hell am I doing it? And I think we can get so caught up in that, especially with launches and with growth. And we can feel like, okay, if I don't do that next, then that won't happen. But actually, you're missing the opportunities that the universe is presenting to you, because we don't know the how. That's kind of given to us on the journey. The how will be revealed, but we just have to focus on the why. Why are we doing this? What is our purpose? What are we here to create? And then you leave the how to the universe and you take aligned action based on what the opportunities are being presented to you, but align with that. It's not saying we're not taking action, but it's about taking action with what feels good to you and what is lining up for you at the moment.
Absolutely. And I think, what were your 3 words again? You said fun, freedom, and fulfillment.
Yeah.
Fulfillment. And I think that's so key. And well, for me, I think there's maybe like 2 groups of entrepreneurs, one that does it for like, I'm going to be the wealthiest person in the world. And then the other half of us that are like, I want to live a life of fulfillment, just like you said. And when you're coming at it with the perspective of that first tier of, let me just check off these boxes, let me get these titles because that's what's going to make me happy, it's like you're still living in this kind of autopilot life that society has led for you, or, you know, laid out this path for you. And that's usually why people leave that path, right? Leave the 9 to 5, because that's not us. That's not what we want to do. We don't want to do what society is telling us to do, but it's almost like you're placing that for yourself when you go into business. If you have this 5-year structure, 10-year structure that you're not willing to budge on, and by the time you get to that point, even if you've checked off all those boxes, are you actually feeling fulfilled?
Yeah.
What's
100%.
the next move?
Yeah. And I fell into this, right? When I first started out as being an entrepreneur, I was 100% in that way of thinking. You know, I was very much in the 3D world. I hadn't kind of had my spiritual awakening or anything then. And it was all about, for me, it was all about, I want to hit 6 figures. You know, that was like I'll be successful when I hit 6 figures. I had a real thing about, what would you call it? Like blue chip clients, right? Like brand names. I was like, if I can get them, that's success, right? You know, it's like the ego. It's like, come on, you know, you can do this. And awards, you know, so getting business awards, these kind of things that, again, are very much part of that 3D culture that society tells us gives us success. But when you get them, and I got them all, it doesn't do anything. It doesn't change anything, because you're trying to put a plaster on a break. You know, you're trying to fill up your cup with external things. And if your cup isn't full internally, none of that external stuff is going to make any difference. And I'm not for 1 minute saying that you shouldn't want money. You know, I am an absolute advocate for female wealth. And the irony is it will come more when you're in alignment, you know, when you're in this flow, when you're really living your purpose, because the universe rewards those who are in service, who are here to help humanity, who are here to help other people. And when you come at it with that perspective, how can I help someone today? How can I improve someone else's life today? The rest will work itself out through the laws of attraction, the laws of reciprocity. I can't even speak today. The laws of reciprocity. You know the word I mean.
Now I'm second guessing myself while I think of it.
But this is what I mean, right? You don't have to be polished and have everything in order for everything to start falling into place for you. But you also don't have to burn yourself out. You don't have to subscribe to that rat race anymore.
Everything that you're saying is like everything that I absolutely feel. And I'm like, yes, you are like speaking for me, girl. I don't even need to be here. Ever since I can remember, I've always had that belief that it's not about money. It's not about chasing money. Even before I even like thought about like what kind of jobs I would have or what I want to do with my life, I just knew that I wanted to do things that I love to do. Mm-hmm. And that passion piece is something that I am constantly preaching. And one of my little mantras and things that I preach frequently is living loudly passionate, because I 100% agree that if you are doing what you love, you're coming from a place of service, and you're really focusing on the impact that you can make, everything else is going to fall into place. And that includes your wealth. And like you said, all of those things, having those targets, having those goals, it's not a bad thing, but it can absolutely blur your vision and your alignment when that's the only thing you're focusing on. For me, those are like the cherries on top, right? Getting the awards, the recognition, whatever it is. But at the end of the day, my main goal is impact, whether that's on a big scale or a small scale. And having those awards is great. And the recognition and the money to do so only increases your impact, which is, again, the cherry on the top. Mm-hmm. But for me, and this is something that's happened very recently, impact, even on the smallest scale, makes me feel like I've done it.
Yeah.
And I've recently received feedback just from one person, from a family member. It was actually the mother of that family member. And she was letting me know like how highly this person thought of me and everything that I do and what she's aspiring to do now. And I was like sitting in that feedback for like the next few days because it felt so amazing. And I'm just talking about one person,
Yeah.
someone in my family. So it's not even just impact in the world, and that's great. That's also my goal. But even impact here at home, even impact for how I'm feeling in my own body. That I think is the goal for me. And again, everything else is just a cherry on top.
I love that so much. And that's something that I think a lot of us forget, right? Especially as we start out, because overnight success has like years and years of struggle before it, right? That is the fact of the matter. If you're not willing to fail, you're also not willing to succeed, because the two come hand in hand. You have to be willing to fail to get it right, to get to that success. And, you know, in all the years of all my failures and successes, the thing that I'm most proud of is watching how my transformation has impacted my eldest daughter. And she went through, you know, really, really rough couple of years, a few years ago when she was doing her GCSEs and transitioned to college, and really struggled with her mental health to the point where she couldn't go to college. She was literally on the verge of having a nervous breakdown. And at the time, I was going through a massive mindset shift of really truly embodying who I wanted to be and really stepping into it unapologetically. And previously, like a few years ago, I would have been very worried about what friends or family would have thought about that, what they would be saying, about how it reflected on me as a parent. You know, I wasn't being whatever, strong enough or strict enough or whatever they want to say. And that would have really affected how I handled the situation. And as I went on this inner power journey myself, I was able to stand in that power as a mother and really see her for who she was and what she was going through, and realize that actually she wasn't meant to go to college. That wasn't her path. She was an entrepreneur just as I was. And it's funny because when I was that age, I knew that that's what I wanted to do. And everyone, you know, had their own opinions about that. And then when it's someone else, especially if it's like your kid, you kind of step into that, what society makes you believe they should be doing, right, at a certain age or whatever. And it took a lot for me to say, do you know what? You don't need to go to college, baby. Like, come and work for me. Come and run one of my 6-figure businesses. And now she runs Forming Crystals. Like, that's her baby now. And she's 17. And a lot of people have a lot to say about that. But the fact of the matter is, she's earning more money than most of those do anyway. And she's forging her own path. Like, she's saying, I know that I am capable on my own. I know that I can be whoever I want to be. And she loves crystals. So it's like a win-win. But the point is that I forget what my point was. The impact, right? It can start, that ripple effect can start at home. Like you said, Krystal, you know, that was a family member for you. And sometimes those are the ones that mean the most, because you're seeing it affect your lineage. You're seeing it affect your bloodline around those closest to you. And that is, you know, that's amazing to witness that and to know that you've played a part in that, right?
Oh my God. Yes, absolutely. Yes. And for those listening, I have 2 girls at home, one that's about to turn 4 and one that's about to turn 6. And we hosted our very first event last May of 2022. It was a vendor fair. We had 20 women-owned businesses, a really great crowd. All these women were just doing their thing, doing things that they loved and were passionate about. And I got to bring my 2 girls there. And while it might not have seemed like a big deal to them, right, because they're so young, it was like overwhelmingly, it felt amazing to be able to expose them to that. For them to see, like, there are so many different paths that you can take your own life, and it doesn't have to be what society tells you it has to be. Whatever you want to do, you can do it. And another thing that I have a huge affinity for is other mompreneurs, right? Because it's so hard to make that choice seemingly for yourself that feels really selfish, but the trickle effect of that on your children, of that on the people around you, to be an actual living role model of like, yes, I am creating a life that I love and doing something that's so meaningful to me. And you can too, right? You don't have to follow this path that's been laid out for you, especially if you're, grinding on a 9-to-5 basis and you're miserable. Why?
Yeah, why? That is the good question. Why? Like, why would you want that?
and then I want to go back to that you mentioned failure earlier when you began talking. And for me, I feel like if you are living a life that you love and doing things that you are truly passionate about, failure is not even in your vocabulary, because you're excited to learn more, right? And you only learn more by doing things maybe that weren't the best way to do it. That doesn't mean you were wrong to do it that way. That just gives you the opportunity to figure out, okay, how can I do it better next time? How can I increase my impact? How can I deepen my why by doing it a different way?
Yeah, exactly. I always say, you need to change your perception on failure. You can't learn the lesson if you don't try. And you can't grow if you don't learn that lesson. So it's the chicken and the egg situation. You need to go through these things. And, failure is only an outcome that we place on something anyway, right? If you actually look at it as this is a stepping stone to my next rung on the ladder, the outcome is kind of neither here nor there. You either do it because you needed a lesson, or you do it because it's taking you to the next rung. There is nothing else to it, but you have to be willing to let go of your ego and your kind of objective as to what you think a result should or shouldn't be, and just realize that it is what it needs to be, always. And again, I've said this many times, but it's really trusting that everything is happening for you and not to you. Everything happens as you need it to happen.
Absolutely. And that letting go of the ego piece is so critical. And, authenticity is a huge value for my brand, for your brands. And it's just the way we live our lives, right? And I think in order to be able to be authentic and really truly honor who you are as a person, that ego, it has to go as much as possible. I know it'll always kind of be lingering back there like this shadow, but still we need to be able to take a step back and really self-reflect on who we are and what we want, and get rid of all of those external validations that we're so accustomed to living for. Right? Because now all of a sudden we're not living for those anymore. We're living for ourselves. We're living for our why.
Yeah, 100%. I love that. And ego is a funny one. So I'm on the fence with it, because yes, I do believe like you 100% need to rein it in. But I also think that it can help you, because, it's the drive, it's your momentum, it's your action taker. So it is really helpful in the entrepreneurial life, but you need to have control of it, right? It's like the wolves pulling the sleigh. It's like you need to have the reins and be showing it like where they need to go, so it doesn't just run off and go wherever it wants to go. It's like you always have control over the ego, and you use it for good and not for evil, kind of thing. It's like just learning how to what's the word, like tame it, so it's useful for you, and then you like it to be around, because it's like a good little dog does as it's told. that's my take on it.
I love that perspective. I love that perspective, and I'm glad you bring that up. Yes, absolutely. It can be such a fuel, right, to keep on going and to keep trusting in yourself, which is something that I hugely worked on when I first launched my business. Before I even started, I know the tip that most people get, or that most entrepreneurs give other entrepreneurs, is just start, just do it.
Yeah.
But before I even kicked off my journey, it was a big mental thing, right? It was a big mindset shift, and I had to make this commitment. All right, I'm going to start betting on myself. I'm going to start trusting myself, because I know I'm the shit. And that's where the ego comes in, right? But you have to feel that way.
Yeah, exactly.
And one of my favorite quotes is, it's not about exuding confidence, it's about internalizing it. Yes. Right. And I think that comes with being passionate and choosing something that you really love. Because when you're talking about something that you love and that you're really passionate about, it's just going to keep flowing out. And it's going to, even if you don't feel confidence, like I can hop on this podcast and be so nervous. It feels like it, right? Because the energy is there. That fire and that passion is there. And people are like, wow, she really knows what she's talking about.
Yeah.
And even if I don't, even if I'm just like, I don't know, flying by the seat of my pants, it's because I love it. Yeah. And that's what's going to keep me going, right? So it's internalizing that confidence.
Oh, I love that. That's such a great tip. So for anyone listening, you know, if you're one of those people who knows that you want to step into the world of being an entrepreneur, but, you know, you're not yet doing it. You're not yet trusting yourself enough. You don't feel confident enough. You don't feel ready enough. You don't feel experienced enough, blah, 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 blah. It's just internalizing that, like Krystal said, you know, we're all born confident. You know, babies get up and they try and walk over and over and over again, right? They're not afraid, they're not scared, they're not afraid to speak their voice, right? They cry at the top of their lungs. Like, I believe we're all born with confidence, and it's the confidence competence circuit that you need to build, and that only comes from practice, from doing the things. So what you have to do is trick yourself into doing it for the first time, because once you do it the first time, the confidence will start to build, you know, whatever it is. But you have to somehow internalize that enough, fake it till you make it. And I love that saying. A lot of people, it triggers them, and I don't mean it in a kind of like a, there's a word, I can't think of it, like deceptive way. What we mean is that you fake your confidence enough so that you take the action, because that's the only way that you start to build it. You just have to convince yourself that you are confident, and then you start doing it.
Yeah. And that's for everything, right? It's not even just for the confidence. It's, you know, if you are showing up online for the first time, it does get easier as you go. If you get your first no, the next 100 no's will slowly start to get easier. You are going to get those no's. You have to accept that. And I think that's where that being very intentional about shifting your mindset at the start has been so incredibly helpful for me, because I'm already aware that all these things are going to happen and that I'm going to have to commit to this. And I made a promise to myself to show up and to commit to this grand vision that I have, that I know is like larger than life, but it excites me to my core.
Yeah, I love that.
When it comes to those moments where I'm like hesitant, right? Where those external validations or the fear of judgment starts creeping in, that I go back to that original commitment I made to myself. And I said, no, I promised myself 3 years ago, this is what I'm going to do. So I'm going to do it. And this is the only way that I can get there if I'm willing to keep pushing myself out of my comfort zone.
Yeah, I love that so much. And Krystal, we're going to wrap up in a minute because I'm mindful of your time, but I just want to touch on something that you said there, because this is exactly who I work with, right? And my audience. So I think this is really paramount that we touch on this quickly. So you said, you know, your vision is larger than life. And that is probably everyone listening. Okay. So I work with visionary entrepreneurs. So the people who, when you tell someone your dreams, everyone looks at you like you're crazy. That's the audience listening to this. And I would love you to touch on, how did you get to the point where you believed that you were capable of achieving something that grand, something that vast, something that big, that everyone else around you, right? It's like, you know, who the fuck do you think you are? That's definitely what I had. You know what? Like, you left school at 16. You think you can do something like that? You know, it's these kind of narratives that we get told, and that make us doubt ourselves, and that make us, you know, feel like, okay, maybe I can't, maybe I'm being a little bit crazy, you know, maybe I should like simmer it down a little bit, maybe I should aim a little bit lower, be a bit more realistic, right? And we water it down, and we water it down, and we water it down. And the truth of the matter is that the ones who are crazy enough to think that they will change the world are the ones that do. But Krystal, I would love you just to quickly share your journey of having the big dream, the big vision, the big idea, to believing enough to start taking action?
Yeah, for me and my story, I don't think it was like a moment of when I felt like I could start dreaming big. I think I've always had that little, I don't know, that little nagging feeling in my soul. Like since I was a child, like I know I'm meant for big things. Yes. It was a matter of like, when am I actually going to act on that? Right. Mm-hmm. So that is where a big part of my story is. And, you know, along the way, I did follow the traditional path. Going to college. I also don't believe in college. So I applaud your decision to be able to do that for your daughter. I think that's incredible. I'm also going to give my daughters the same opportunity to figure out a path for themselves. But I went to college because, you know, that's what my mom wanted me to do. And my sister was going to college. I said, if I was going to go to college, I wanted to go to the Fashion Institute of Design and Merchandising, because my very first entrepreneurial thought was that I was going to be this big fashion designer. And so I told my mom, I said, okay, well, if I'm going to go to college, this is the college that I wanted to go to. But again, in that very traditional societal thinking, she was like, that's not a real college. You won't get a real job. Go to this college where your sister is going. And I said, okay, sure, whatever you want me to do. Went to this college, you know, kind of just whatever. It was 4 years. Okay, great. After that, you know, did some little jobs here and there. And then I ended up getting a longer term career at a government agency where I'm actually still currently working. Again, didn't excite me. My mom found it. She actually also works for the government. And she said, here, work here. It's a great job, stable job, right? Financial stability, good for a family. Said, that sounds boring as, you know. Mm. And I was like, but okay, sure, whatever it is that you want me to do. In the long run, you know, in hindsight, it was actually a great thing, you know, to get my college degree and go to this job, because that's actually where I met my partner. And now I have beautiful children.
Everything for a reason.
Everything for a reason. So I'm so grateful for that. But I think after that moment, when the idea of Book of Bijou, our jewelry storage line, hit me, it was like this epiphany moment. And I was like, you know what? I've done all the things that people have asked me to do. And I've always known that I was meant for all these other things. Yeah. I'm going to start living for myself now. Like, I've done everything that you asked me to do. I hope that makes you happy. Now I'm going to make the shift and start making myself happy, because this is what I envisioned for myself. Yeah. I think we have this, you know, this natural need or desire to please our parents or to please other people. And so we do that. But the magic is in finding that moment where you're able to step outside of that and start considering yourself.
I love that, because we end up just sacrificing our dreams for other people, right? For what someone else thinks we should or we shouldn't do, or that we're capable of doing or not doing. And the thing is that you never really realize your fullest potential until you start stepping into that, and you start leaning into that, and you start really trusting in yourself. And I always say, you know, your dreams are yours for a reason. They're not meant to make sense to anyone else, because you're the only one that can fulfill them. You know, it's the Wright brothers, it's Thomas Edison, it's all these people who had these crazy ideas to other people because they couldn't see what was going on inside their minds. They didn't have the visions, they didn't have the thoughts, they didn't have the knowing. Like you say, Krystal, that knowing is something I talk about a lot, because you can't explain it. You can't write down what it is. If you have it, you know it. You know that you are meant for more. You know that you are here to create bigger, better, brighter, bolder things. And no one else, unless they also have that, is going to understand. And you have to get to a point where you accept that, and you're very, I like to say, you know, put your earplugs in to people around you and talk about your dreams only with other people on the same journey as you, because they're the ones who get it. They're the ones who are going to lift you up. They're the ones who are going to challenge you to rise higher and shine brighter, right? But you have to otherwise block out all of the noise.
Yes, I'm so glad you said that, because I was going to say the same thing. Even if you are sharing those visions with the people that you hold nearest and dearest to your heart, they're not going to get it. And that's totally okay. They don't need to get it. That doesn't make your vision any less valid. Yeah. That doesn't mean that you are less worthy of creating something as big as this vision that you have in your head. And this goes back to, my mantra of living loudly passionate. Keep sharing it. Don't share it with the same people that don't get it. You got to be mindful of your energy. You have to be mindful of your energy and where you're putting it. But share it in places that matter. Yes. Right? And places like Women Thrive, where they're like-minded women that have equally grand visions. When you're sharing it so loudly and so passionately, I absolutely believe that your tribe is going to come. Your people are going to come, and they're going to share in that excitement with you. They're going to share in that vision with you. Yeah. And then for me, like at home, if I get really excited about something, and I know my partner doesn't always understand what it is that I'm trying to do, and that's okay. But I'll share this big vision, and if he's not reciprocating it, it doesn't matter. I'm not letting him dull my excitement, because I trust in myself and I trust in my vision, and I'm excited. Isn't it exciting, right? And he might not be. He'll just be saying, yeah, that's great. And I'm like, yeah, it's great.
Yeah. I love it. And it's so true. And, I'm just going to finish off very quickly, because I know we've talked for a long time. If you're still listening, I'm really proud of you for staying the course, because a lot of people will shut things off after like 10 minutes. And again, from the beginning, like we said, this is the difference between the people that achieve and the people that stay dreaming. Right? You have to invest in your time, in your energy, in feeding your mind with the goodness that is going to help you grow. And I just want to reiterate what Krystal said there, because I had a moment, and we're all human. Again, we all fall into it, no matter where you are on the journey. My mum's down for the weekend, and she came in, and one of the very first things I did, I slipped back into old habits. This is something I would have used to have done. And I told her about one of my new business ideas. And I'm so excited about it. Obviously, it's to do with the crystals, and we've got this big, 6-month kind of strategy. We have got a strategy for this to grow it and co-brand it for other spiritual practitioners to basically offer our crystals under their name. So it's like a massive, massive, massive idea that I am so lit up by. And so the first thing I do, she comes in, give her a hug, and I'm like, woo! And she's like, sounds interesting. Straight away, I was like, did you do that, Claire? Because I just slipped. Sometimes we slip back into our old ways of being, and that's okay. But it's just being aware of that really quickly. Like straight away, I was like, oh yeah, why? I know why I did that, because I haven't seen her for a long time, and it's just one of my old kind of paradigms, right? That I'm no longer in, but sometimes tries to just suck you back. So just reiterating what Krystal said there, and this is so important. Be really mindful of your energy. Be really mindful of who you share it with. And we're not talking about, don't talk to your friends and family, but we're saying be mindful of what you talk to them about and what you share with them, because not everyone will get it. And sometimes in the beginning, we're not strong enough to not take on others' doubts as our own. And so if you're at the beginning of your journey, especially, this is even more important, because what you don't want to do is take on other people's own limiting beliefs around what they believe is possible for their own lives. That's all it is. And it's a projection onto you, and it stops you. It keeps you exactly where you are, in the wanting and the yearning and the knowing, but the never doing. And so I think that's a great note to finish on there. Always trust in yourself, trust in your dreams, trust in your desires, trust in your aspirations, and trust in your ability to make them your reality, because you have everything that you need inside of you already. It's just waiting to be released, right? Waiting to come into your 3D reality. And Krystal, thank you so much for waking up at 5 o'clock in the morning and coming to share your beautiful energy with us. Is there any last things that you would like to leave people with before we kind of give your contact details and so on?
I love everything that you just ended it off with. I think that was perfect. I was just sitting here just admiring you as you spoke, and I equally enjoyed this conversation. I feel like we could have talked forever. So obviously we went over our time, but I loved chatting with you. And again, it's because we are so passionate about what we do, right? That we could go on. And we're invested in this process because it's for ourselves and it's for our mission. So for everyone out there, I just want to remind you all that you are absolutely so capable of doing whatever it is that you set your heart out to do. And not only are you capable of it, but you are so worthy of it. So live a life that you love.
Oh, I love that. Live a life that you love. Yes. Love that. And go and create big impact and big income.
Yes. Yes.
Krystal, where can everyone find you?
So our product line, our jewelry storage line, is Book of Bijou. Bijou is French for jewelry. That's the title for our Instagram handle as well as our websites. And then our community platform is Empowered by Women, women spelled WMN. I'm very active on Instagram, so check us out there. You can also check us out on our website. And we do have a online women-owned small business directory for any businesswomen that are listening that are based in the States. That is for product and service-based businesses. We would love to have you be a part of the community. There's so many fun things that we're launching in 2024 that I'm so excited about. But yeah, reach out. I would love to chat. I'm all about making connections. I think that's probably like the best part of business, being able to meet incredible women like Claire and like all of you that are listening.
Oh, I love it. Thank you so much. And everyone listening, we'll put all of those links in the show notes below. So don't panic. It will all be there for you. Just to press a click and away you go. Krystal, thank you. Thank you so, so much for your beautiful energy and for sharing your time and your knowledge with us. To everyone listening, thank you guys for coming back. Thank you for investing time in yourself. Thank you for believing in yourself. And remember, the world is waiting for you. Okay. Until next time, I'll see you all soon.